and Sports. Thank you for coming. Distinguished guests, if I could ask a very quick favor, if we could go and fill in the front seats to be closer to the rostrum, please do so. Thank you so much. Distinguished guests, very good morning and salam sejahtera. Yang berhormat Tuan Adam Adli bin Abdul Halim, Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports, Professor Joseph Cherian, Deputy Chief Executive Officer at the Asia School of Business, Professor Melati Nungsari, Faculty Director of the ASEAN Research Centre and the Research Director of RYSE program, distinguished guests, beloved colleagues, a warm welcome and selamat datang to the 2023 RYSE Research Launch. Thank you so very much indeed for making the trek out here today in the middle of Kuala Lumpur's notorious rush hour. I am Farhan, your MC for today's event, and on behalf of the organizers and hosts, the ASEAN Research Centre, the RYSE program, and the Asia School of Business, we warmly welcome you to our beautiful campus and hope that the activities and discussions that will be taking place today sparks thoughts that will go a long way. Distinguished guests, in line with this year's theme of taking the leap from intention to action, we are here to celebrate the key to our nation's future: youths, their aspirations, and their way forward. For your information, dear guests, the RYSE program stands for Rapid Youth Success, Entrepreneurship, and Employability, and aims to promote upward mobility and to lower youth unemployment rates, as well as expose, upskill, and support youths through various research and program initiatives. Today, we will be looking at the milestones RYSE has accomplished throughout their 4-year run and look into important insights on youth entrepreneurship and employability, informed by on-the-ground research. Without further ado, distinguished guests, it is my distinct pleasure to invite to the rostrum Professor Joseph Cherian, Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Asia School of Business, to officially welcome all of you to our beautiful campus.
Good morning, everyone. So good to see all of you here. Good morning to Deputy Minister YB Adam Adli. He came even before schedule, so he really keeps time. But thank you so much for being here. Very good. And welcome to all our honored guests. You're in for a good time. Welcome to ASB. Let me start by saying how I ended up in KL. After a long roundabout journey, I left. I'm a kampong boy from Malacca. I left in 1982. Yeah, I'm a lot older than I look. To America, and I did all my studies. I worked there, and then came back just last December. Been a long time away. And I moved back here because I came to give a faculty seminar, just like a regular research seminar at ASB. And I can tell you I was so impressed by what I saw. It was a best-kept secret, first of all. None of us knew about it. And when I gave that seminar, I was taken aback by the research centers See, I've been in many, I'm still affiliated with Cornell. I'm a visiting professor at Cornell University. I've been through MIT and all that stuff. Basically, a lot of the research, and even Singapore, National University of Singapore, a lot of the research is very American-centric because that's how you get published. But when I came here, I realized the research here was very scientific, very academic, and extremely sound, but at the same time it had impact, not just in Malaysia, but in ASEAN. It talked a lot about, the research talked a lot about uplifting lives and livelihoods. For example, one of our research centers, that's the Center for Sustainable Smallholders, focuses on uplifting the lives and livelihoods of smallholder plantation, oil palm plantation owners. These guys, I visited the farms. These guys have about 2 acres each. They are not very wealthy. What we are trying to do, or what the center is trying to do through supply chain management, certification, and traceability, upping their game because not many people are helping them. So our research center, with the help of sponsors, will help them certify and be able to trace the palm oil they produce so that it's RSPO and MSPO certified and so on. And then we have, of course, Professor Melati's ARC and RYSE that does so much good on the social entrepreneurship front, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. Then we have one on sustainable energy and digital technology, again, that's impacting East Malaysia, east coast of Malaysia as well. So I said to myself, these are people trained in very solid schools, the best PhDs and so on, but they came back here to contribute to improve our country and our region using research. And what I call that is translational research. Most people call it applied, but I call it translational research, which is what medicine, legal practice do in professional schools. So I think ASB practices what it preaches. It wants to be a business school that uses science and sound academic principles to impact the people and society we live in. For example, today you'll hear about ASEAN Research Centre's Rapid Youth Success Entrepreneurship Program, which is what RYSE stands for. And they conduct impactful research related to Malaysian youth and entrepreneurs. It just launched its latest series of social outreach programs involving micro-entrepreneurship, which is supported by City Foundation. I'm not sure if anyone from City Foundation is here. Raise your hand, no? But anyway, thank you very much if you're watching it on YouTube. RYSE is making an impact and difference with respect to Malaysian youth and micro-entrepreneurs through its sound research and outreach. Today, Principal Research Associate Ms. Chin Jiawei will be highlighting some of the research conducted and the findings. Example, what factors drive Malaysian entrepreneurs and their intention? Because once we get behind their mindset, we'll be able to help them even further. And a lot of that includes analyzing data, behavioral traits, and using even maybe behavioral science and economics to improve their existence as entrepreneurs. The findings you'll hear about today from RYSE are derived from 3 programs. It's free online platform for training entrepreneurship skills. The second one is entrepreneurship boot camps for B40 high schoolers. Hear it, this is for B40 high schoolers. And over 300 students have already gone through this program. These are boot camps taught by our RYSE and ARC faculty and research staff. They've conducted classes in Sandakan, Sempurna, and including KL. And they're going to do more of that through the social outreach programs. And then there's also the Rise to Work program. We don't want to forget our graduates who are displaced, who don't have jobs. They need to also be retrained, upskilled, go through some workforce training. They have a program for such fresh graduates and hopefully can place them at proper jobs that are suited to their capabilities. So there will also be today an engaging panel discussion on supporting Malaysian micro-entrepreneurs. So it's going to be a pretty exciting day, and I hope you all stay through the end to listen to it all. With that, let me hand the reins over to my very capable colleague, Professor Melati Nungsari. She's a rock star. Don't get up yet, I'm not done. Melati. She's a rock star. I've got to say a few things about her. She's the faculty director of the ASEAN Research Centre and RYSE. And just yesterday, our president and CEO announced that she's the new deputy dean of research. So she's reached the highest level. Well deserved, because her research is really good and impactful, and she can now rally all of us to do the right thing in terms of translational research. So congratulations, Melati. She will give you a better and more comprehensive introduction of what promises to be a fruitful and engaging day. Thank you once again, and a warm welcome to all of you to ASB.
Thank you so much for your heartfelt welcome, Professor Cherian. Next, I would like to invite Professor Melati Nungsari, Faculty Director of the ASEAN Research Centre and Research Director of RYSE, for her welcoming address, offering you a glimpse into the important work ARC and RYSE regularly engages with. The floor is yours, Professor Melati.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So my sort of goal here is to introduce you a bit to the ASEAN Research Centre. So I think Joe gave a bit of introduction to the school. I will do the Research Centre, and Daniel, later you hear from him, will talk about the program specifically. So what I would like to show is, I think if I go on, so just tell you a little bit about ASEAN Research Centre. So we are the flagship research program at ASB. We were endowed by Maybank. Maybank gave us a small pot of money to basically create a research center that focuses on topics in Southeast Asia. So we research things that have impact. We do not believe in research for the sake of research, but we believe in sort of applied consequences. So how can you help, for example, solve very practical, specific problems that are relevant to the region? And how we're doing that, so we do a lot of public events, so this is one of them. Thank you to, I think, 60 people who are currently physically here, and we have more people tuning in person, on YouTube. So thank you for coming. We are hoping to do more of these engagements, just to show you a little bit about how research can be applied to real problems. But we host regularly events. We also host a bunch of scholars, and instead of boring you with me talking, I had to make a video for the Board of Governors at ASB, and my team is quite young, so I tried to do this using TikTok. So the video is here because this is my first attempt at doing non-speaking kind of format for updating the board, so I was like, I'm just going to use this today as well. So I'm going to go ahead and play, let's watch this video update. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of just play this with you, and what this video will tell you a little bit is sort of the recent events that have been happening at ARC, what we've been doing this year, and then I'll talk a little bit about a team and then hand it over to Farhan next. So how do I play this? Don't laugh, okay? This is my first attempt, so.
Hi everyone, my name is Melati Nungsari, and I am an associate professor of economics at ASB and also the faculty director for the ASEAN Research Centre. So today I'm going to give you updates about the center and what we've been doing. In particular, I'd like to sort of remind you of the 3 pillars that ARC focuses on when we think about creating impact through research in Southeast Asia. The first pillar is going to be economic resilience. The second pillar is sustainability in society, and the third pillar is inclusivity. So I'm going to tell you basically what are our updates for each of these pillars coming up. Welcome to ARC. So as you can see around us, the RYSE team just moved up. So it's a bit messy, but this is this is our center. And I'm just going to give you the updates right now. So for pillar 1, economic resilience, we have that our grant to City Foundation, which is going into its 5th year, has been renewed. And we will be having a research launch on the 25th of October with the Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports, Adam Adli, officiating. So at the RYSE research launch, we will have our principal research associate, Jin Jiawei. She's going to present results from 5 different papers that we've published over the years surrounding youth entrepreneurship and employment. For the second pillar on sustainability and society, ARC is going to be going to Korea. So we've been working on a project with the South Korean government through the ASEAN Korea Center for about 18 months now. And this will culminate in the launch of a report in Seoul on the 21st of November. So we have 6 members from the team going, and we're going to make different partnerships with various universities in Seoul as well during that time. I'm also going to be presenting in Jakarta to the ASEAN Secretariat at the beginning of December on the findings from this project, which looked at mapping ESG policies, barriers, and opportunities throughout Southeast Asia. Finally, for our third pillar, on inclusivity, we have an ongoing project with UNHCR on building a conversational Bahasa Malaysia language curriculum for adult refugees. And they've also reached out to us to create a cultural orientation and integration model for refugees in Malaysia. So we're very excited to see what papers come on that and how we can help the refugee community in Malaysia. Finally, I'd just like to inform the board that we are also doing a variety of AI projects. So we have an AI project looking at whether or not human interviewers do better than artificial intelligence chatbots. The results seem to indicate that maybe we don't do as well as the chatbots. And the second project that we have is doing thematic analysis. So one of our faculty members, Sam Flanders, has also been thinking about basically how to extract textual data using thematic analysis performed by AI. Separately, we've also finalized and signed our Memorandum of Understanding with AKPK. So we're basically going to be combining our technical expertise with their huge database that can look at credit, behavior of Malaysian households and Malaysian SMEs. So we're really excited to start with them. This is our counter of travel objects or souvenirs that the team has accumulated throughout the years. And just as a final update, thank you for tuning in. And I would like to also announce that we've talked to Professor Yiren, who's in organizational behavior, and she will also be helping out a bit more in ARC moving forward. And I believe that given that she has different expertise than me, she'll bring great new knowledge to the center in order to train and create the best research center in Southeast Asia.
So that is ARC. We do a variety of topics. As you can see before, we're very multidisciplinary, so we focus on really solving problems rather than looking at specific fields. So I would just like to thank the amazing team that has brought us here. These are all of their faces, happy faces. Thank you all so much. We will also be hearing later from some of our affiliates. So we have Dr. Michael Mustafa from Nottingham, who will also be speaking on the panel, and we have visiting scholars as well, so dedicated people studying things relevant to Malaysia. So if this is your first time interacting with ARC, I would like to welcome you to sort of keep in touch with us. Think of us if you think of a problem, well, problems that you think we can solve, right? Like we cannot do plumbing, for example. But problems that we might be able to solve, and we look forward to working with you. And so I think with that, I will give it back to Farhan to introduce our keynote speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Melati. Now, distinguished guests, to officiate our event, I would like to invite a key person in Malaysia's development of youth talent and capacity building. Distinguished guests, please welcome our keynote speaker for the 2023 RYSE Research Launch, Yang Berhormat Tuan Adam Adli bin Abdul Halim, Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Namanu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Karim. Very good morning. Assalamualaikum. Prof. Joseph Cherian, Deputy CEO of Asia School of Business, Prof. Melati Nusari, ASEAN Research Centre, Faculty Director, and Mr. Daniel Bakri, RYSE Program Manager, and everyone here in this room this morning. I'm pleased to kick off a research launched by RYSE, also known as Rapid Youth Entrepreneurship, Success Entrepreneurship, a focus on supporting youth in both education and employability. This body of research is thematically relevant to Malaysia's reality. The COVID-19 pandemic saw the nation where the economic precarity. Fresh graduates particularly struggle with finding their footing in what was dubbed as the new normal. Fortunately, things have improved since then, although there are still barriers to address. The unemployment rate, for example, has successfully dropped to 3.4% as of August 2023, comparable to the pre-COVID-19 levels at 3.3%. Therefore, the government are dedicated to ensuring that we make good decisions to serve the Malaysian youth, a bright, enthusiastic demography that is eager to stamp their mark on the world. The Madani government has been dubbed as a New Deal for the youth, providing various career programs, trainings, and incentives. We have been actively working on enhancing vocational training program to equip our young individuals with the necessary skills and knowledge required by the job market. But we can't do it alone, of course. The private sector is more important than ever in raising our Malaysian youth. And the collaboration between the private sector and the government, it lies in the potential solution to this predicament. Initiatives such as mentorship, internships with dignified pay, fostering entrepreneurships and startup culture are all part of private sector efforts that make a solid change. This is just part of what makes programs such as RYSE so important. Learning directly from young people what their needs are allowed for better opportunity creation. It is undeniably that high youth employment rate contributes to economic growth. When young people are employed, they earn an income and contribute back to the overall consumption and demand of the economy. This, in turn, stimulates business activities, creates job opportunities, and boosts economic development. When the young people have access to decent and productive work, they can escape poverty and create a better future for themselves and their families. Employment provides them with a stable income, improves their living standards, and reduces their reliance on social assistance programs. In a multicultural nation like ours, we cannot underemphasize low important social inclusion. How important social inclusion is and how large a role the youth can play in propagating this. Youth employment promotes social inclusion by providing young people, especially those from disadvantaged backgrounds, with equal opportunities to participate in the labor market. It allows them to make meaningful contributions to the society, gain independence, and feel included in economic and social fabric of their communities. Entrepreneurship is one of the answers to poverty alleviation and youth empowerment. SMEs are a large provider of employment, and so the government has prioritized the development of SMEs as seen in the budget 2024. The Badan Economic Framework has put in place measures to increase access to financing and loans for Malaysian SMEs amounting to a total of 44 billion. Indeed, micro-entrepreneurs and small traders are provided with financing facilities amounting to 2.4 billion. Other agencies such as Bank Simpanan Nasional and Tekun. From this, 720 million ringgit is set aside to encourage women and youth to venture into businesses. Under Bank Negara Malaysia, total of ringgit Malaysia 8 billion is financing facilities provided to support SME companies. From this amount, 600 million is dedicated to support micro-enterprises and low-income entrepreneurs, small contractors, the application of sustainability practices, and food security-related sectors. As for the better opportunities for the youth, for the young people, success is rarely a linear path, especially in these interesting times. Setbacks should never seen as permanent as we are united, principled, and hardworking. We cannot and will not let Malaysian youth become a lost generation. The talent is there, the talent is ready and willing, and we just need to provide them with the opportunities. Today's event should prove an educational one. RYSE research findings will cover the links between student proactivity and university support, urban and rural female youth aspirations, perceptions surrounding entrepreneurship and online learning, and the formation of youth entrepreneurial action. We are all here today to support and learn more about youth leadership, employability, and entrepreneurship. I've shared with all of you a little about the government's vision, how this will impact the generations. While it will take some time to fully ameliorate the economic impacts of the pandemic and fully address youth employability and opportunities, it is a task we are ready to take head on. I'm confident that with the public-private strategy and teamwork, we will build youthful labor force that is not just well qualified, but earning a dignified wage in the field of their choice. For the closing, let me take this opportunity to celebrate not just the valuable research work and learnings shared by the panelists here today, who are both from the academia and industry, but also to salute Malaysia's young people who have shown themselves to be consistently resilient, tenacious, and creative. With that, I wish you all the best at today's event, taking the leap from intention to action. This would be all the words that we have prepared as part of my speech. But from the heart, I would say that this morning shows that it is very important for all of us in this room to find a way in working together. Part of I believe that the most important responsibilities of all of us will be how do we connect everyone together. Of course, today I'm representing the government, and some of you are representing the private and corporate sectors, the business school, and of course, the youth and the entrepreneurs. It is always difficult for all of us to actually be able to sit together. Private sectors would not normally be on the same page with the government on certain matters, similar to the youth with the government. I used to be youth, or probably still am. I would understand. We don't want anyone to be telling us that this is how you should do things. This is how you can be successful. It is always on our own terms. It will always be on our own pace. But we have to try to take up some, sense of responsibility in getting everyone to be able to sit together, talk about it, discuss things over, properly assess where would be our strength and weaknesses, and move on and move forward together. We cannot be able to come out of this difficult time if we are not able to try to understand each other's needs and try to help and support each other to whatever capacity they are. So I believe that what we can offer from the Ministry of Youth and Sports will be that while we might not be as big as any other ministries like the economy, MITI, or anyone who can seem to be, have always proven themselves to be more helpful in terms of elevating the entrepreneurship among especially the youth. But we can at least be a platform that can provide all of us here in this room or maybe outside a neutral ground, a place where everyone can turn intention into initiative, ideas into something more practical. And this would be my humble offer from the Ministry of Youth and Sport. You can always be contacted. I'm looking forward for any form of further engagement, and I would like to see that this research launch today to be the catalyst and to be the stepping stone towards achieving more, and as Dr. Melati has said, probably be the best in Southeast Asia one day. Inshallah, and I wish you all the best, and thank you for having me today. And with that, I leave the stage.
Sekalung budi terima kasih and our utmost gratitude to Yang Berhormat Tuan Adam Adli bin Abdul Halim for that rousing opening. And with that, we would like to invite Professor Joseph Cherian and Professor Melati Nungsari to the stage to present Yang Berhormat Tuan Adam Adli bin Abdul Halim with a token of our appreciation. Now, we are inviting the members of the RYSE team and panelists for our upcoming panel discussion to the stage for a photo session. Invitation again to the panelists of the next panel session to come to the stage. Thank you. On behalf of the organizers, thank you so much again, Yang Berhormat Tuan Adam Adli bin Abdul Halim, for your presence in today's event and your strong support to our initiative. Dearest guests, please allow me to give a brief overview of the agenda for today. Up next, we will be hearing more about RYSE's programs and initiatives from the RYSE Program Manager, which will be followed by a quick tea break around 10:35 a.m. Afterwards, we will be reconvening in this auditorium around 10:50 a.m. to catch the presentation of RYSE's research findings from the RYSE Principal Research Associate. The event will then be followed by a panel discussion on supporting Malaysian micro-entrepreneurs with our esteemed panelists, after which we will reach the end of our program for today. Throughout the event, we also have a bazaar featuring some of the micro-entrepreneurs, which we in RYSE call as Tauques, running booths at the ASB lobby just outside there, a little bit beyond the atrium, selling handcrafted goods like delicious vegan ice cream, artisanal batik fashion, homegrown cosmetics, accessories and apparel, and homemade pastries. Without further ado, distinguished guests and everyone here who are passionate about fostering youth capacity building, let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Daniel Al-Bakri, the RYSE Program Manager, to share more about RYSE's extensive and impactful activities in encouraging upwards mobility. The floor is yours, Daniel.
Thank you, Farhan. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We are so excited to actually finally be able to share some of the outcomes from our research today, because primarily RYSE has generally been seen as more of a social outreach program, but we actually have a sizable research component. So thank you all for coming here. I'm Daniel Al-Bakri, as Farhan has already mentioned, the program manager of RYSE. And basically what I'm here to do is to give you a bit of a summary about what the program actually does, what it is we're about, so that later on when my colleague Jia Wei comes on to talk about our research findings, you have a bit more context about what it is she's talking about. So let me just start by painting a picture, right? So this is numbers from July this year, actually, that pretty much just under 500,000 Malaysian youths are currently unemployed. And a study from 2022 by SOCSO found that around 40% of degree and diploma holders are actually underemployed in semi-skilled and low-skilled employment. To make things even more stark, just under 30% of graduate placements in 2022, as you can see on the board, their first placement was less than 2,000 ringgit a month, which is not really a livable wage. So that's the kind of thing that RYSE is trying to help with. We're not going to solve the problem, where we don't have any ideas of grandeur in that sense, but we think that our capacity here in terms of not only providing some degree of training and things like that, but also research can assist with that. So our vision is actually on upward mobility of Malaysian youths. Upward economic mobility is what I'm meaning here. So we are, as I said, a social outreach and research program. And we're very much happy to be currently funded by City Foundation, so thank you so much. Yeah, so moving on, research has shown that small and medium-sized businesses, SMEs, are pretty much the largest providers of employment that in most countries, actually, including Malaysia, and can play a significant role in poverty reduction. And further research has also shown that small-scale entrepreneurship is a viable means of basically helping people move up the economic ladder, especially for urban populations. So that is kind of why that RYSE is focused on entrepreneurship. But as we'll see, we've also kind of pivoted towards other employability skills as well. So our mission, now that you know what we're trying to do, our mission here is pretty much can be split into 5 ways. We want to expose youths to stories about entrepreneurship and employability, to basically make them aware that entrepreneurship is a viable avenue for them to sustain themselves economically. and also what resources are available to them. Furthermore, we want to upskill youth with entrepreneurial mindsets, soft skills, business building skills, things like that that can help them so that they are able to not only just have the intent to start a business, but now they already have the skills to actually run one. Thirdly, on a lesser sense, we support youths with seed funding and support networks. This is so that those who are already making the step into running a business, that we can help nudge them a bit in that sense. Okay, and 4 and 5 is related to research. So 4, we actually want to contribute to Southeast Asian research on entrepreneurship. There isn't actually a lot from our region, and we're there. A lot of our research is in that field. And then we also want to highlight the current trends in entrepreneurship and employability with our academic research, not just our own research, but research from other centers as well. So that's what we want to do. So how are we going to do it? So our framework is pretty obvious. We have 3 main streams. One of them is entrepreneurship. The other one is employability. And both of those streams, which are our social outreach activities, right? That's where those programs come from. They're both supported and somewhat integrated with our research stream, which conducts research activities with the programs. As you can see on the screen, we leverage on a lot of stuff from ASB and MIT Sloan. In fact, our entrepreneurship curriculum, the initial one, was from a MIT professor, Scott Stern, his curriculum, but that one was set up in a very general and a large-scale context, US-centric. So we have brought it down to a Malaysian context, and our focus is more towards entrepreneurship rather than anything large. We also make use of design thinking elements, learning by doing methodologies, basically to make it more interesting for people to learn from our programs. And as I've mentioned, our research actually feeds back into our content. So not only are we producing research papers, right, to talk about relationships between things, our research also informs the direction that our programs can go. And so actually a lot of these findings is what Jiawei is going to be talking about later today. So I've been saying about programs. You saw a bit of a preview of them on the board. What does that mean? So the first and main thing that RYSE started with was our boot camps. These are entrepreneurship boot camps where we go into schools, mainly high schools. Generally, we target Form 4 students, and we teach them basically about entrepreneurship, start to finish. But because of our constraints, we usually do it for 3 to 6 days. So it's not enough to actually get them, able to start a business immediately, walking out of the workshop. But they are at least aware about all the things that they need to have in place for them to start a business, and to have an idea that, okay, if you want to start something small, that they are more than able to. In fact, our last bootcamp, I think that was mentioned by Dr. Joe, was that we went to 4 schools in Sandakan, and we were very much well received there. But as usual, what we find is that even our Malaysian context, or the KL context, has to be further localized to the context of Sabah, the context of Sandakan, right? And that's something that we're going to probably end up with a whole bunch of different sets of content for particular audiences. Okay, moving on. So when it came to COVID-19 and the MCO and lockdown, obviously we weren't able to go to schools anymore. So that's when we had to pivot to digital, and we set up RYSE Online. So RYSE Online is an online platform, an online course. It's free. In fact, all our programs are free, by the way, whereby we basically go, again, the A to Z's of entrepreneurship, starting a business, and all the factors that you need to have it. This one also includes design thinking elements and things like that. It's, as with most online learning, it's asynchronous, meaning that you can learn as you go. You might do a couple lessons today, a couple lessons next week, another lesson next month, and in 2 months finish the course. Many people don't even finish the course, but that's okay. And we actually keep it open, so it's not even only targeted to youth, actually. Our youngest completion was 11 years old, apparently, and the eldest was 60 years old. But we only track youths aged 16 to 28. That's our age group. So from that youth group who actually complete the course, they can actually try to proceed to the next stage, whereby they build a business plan, submit it to us, they pitch it to us, and then if they are selected, right, we obviously go through them. If they're selected, they go into the next section, where then they can get workshops, mentorships, counseling, a bit of counseling and things like that to help run and start up their business. And then they also have multiple stage gates where they pitch again to get further amounts of funding. So that's actually a pretty popular, the last round we did it was in 2021 in the full scale, and it was quite popular, so we're going to be bringing it around again this time around. So those two main programs were in entrepreneurship. Last year, based on feedback from our participants, we actually did a slight pivot into employability. Not so much in terms of hard skills, but more on soft skills and in particular support networks within for people. So this was set up as a 2-week base camp where people, the participants or the participants come in and then we teach them all these things. And then we would get them to go for interviews with hiring partners that we had set up beforehand. These are impact organizations, and then we try and arrange for 3-month work placements with them. But the interesting thing is that the youth here that we were targeting were mainly fresh graduates who had not gotten employment within 1 to 2 years from graduation. So these are people who were basically might feel they're a bit left behind. And that's what a big portion of that base camp was about, was to make them feel like, no, it's okay, don't worry, you haven't dropped off the boat, we can get you there. And then once they move into the work placement, they feel a bit more ready and with a bit more confidence. Okay, so those were our main programs, the big ones. We also do a lot of webinars, workshops, sharing sessions, and things like that. So on the left there is Rise with Us, which is our series of webinars that we host pretty much once a month, sometimes more, where we go through a bunch of different skills, things like communication skills, brand strategy, presentation skills, how to deal with conflict in the workplace, stuff like that. Again, everything's for free. People just register, come, and then they go through the session. And we tend to include learning by doing there as well. So these are not just talking sessions. Usually there's a degree of interactivity where they'll have to go and, if it's a case of speech writing, they'll actually have to write speeches for us as part of the whole webinar. The other thing that we do is, on your right there is Tauke Talks. So this is where we get in our micro entrepreneurs and SME entrepreneurs. We have quite a few in our network where they interview, basically we interview them, and then we also run webinars with them where they basically share their experiences of running a business, of starting up their business, the challenges that they face, things like that, so that those who might be inclined or interested in running a small business, they can hear real world experiences from people who actually are doing the deed. Lastly, beyond that, we're going to do a bit more of the fun stuff. Every year we usually have creative competitions whereby youths can submit comics or drawings or stories depending what our theme is that year, and then winners win cash prizes. I think if any of you have received the books over there in the registration table or the postcards, yeah, those were all actually produced by young people who won the contest with us. So we'll be having one this year as well. And also we're very active on social media, so especially on Instagram. So if you want to see what we're up to, that's the easiest way to see updates from us in terms of any of the programs. We usually also shoot out a bunch of research stuff there too, little reels and things like that. In terms of our impact, I think we've had pretty successful runs so far, just over 5,500 youths reached. Just under 2,000 youths we've trained in a way. So I think it's pretty decent. On the whole, I think a thing that really drives us a lot is the fact that we get a lot of positive feedback from our participants. There's a lot of, it'd be great if you guys could also do this. And then we do that, the next time around. And then we kind of have this positive feedback where people come back. There's a lot of our youth who had gone to our previous programs. They come back to our events and our sessions later. So that really gives us that sort of drive to, okay, keep going. But obviously there's other areas that we need to work on in terms of how to make our impact more longer lasting, and that's what we're also working on. Okay, so this year, next year, we'll be doing it all over again. All our main programs will be running, but we're going to adapt them, as we always do. So our online course is going to be updated. We're going to have actually a whole new slew of videos there, newer case studies and everything like that. And our Rise to Work sessions, which is our employability program, we've actually, based on the feedback that we got from our pilot, we are moving away from trying to give them work placements and actually just focusing on mentorship and counseling and guidance, because that was the thing that a lot of them said that's what they appreciated the most. The soft skills side of things, they kind of have that. You can easily find that on YouTube. You can get that, you can learn that easily. But it was more of the case of the fact that they had a group of people together, that they did not feel alone, and that they had the support of the team behind them. So this year we're focusing on that. We're looking out for mentors. If any of you are mentors or a person who feels that you could guide an unemployed youth, to help them get a job, do let us know. Drop our card at our table, and we're more than happy to get hold of you or try and get in touch with you later once the program actually starts. Furthermore, if you are interested in any of our entrepreneurship programs in terms of, because we are always looking for people who might have business savvy to be able to give a degree of guidance to the incubated businesses. If you're a finance specialist or things like that, to give them the lowdown of how to do that, that'll be great too. You can contact us via our email. If any, you probably have gotten the little QR code cards that has the links to all our platforms that you can get in touch with us. All right. So I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for that insightful presentation. This marks the end of the first half of today's event. I would like to now invite our distinguished guests to join us at the foyer for a quick tea break between now until 10:50 a.m. Please feel free to feast on the refreshments that we've prepared for you in the foyer, and we welcome you to visit the bazaar that's been set up by our Takes in the main lobby. See you again at 10:50 a.m. Thank you. Test mic 1 2, test mic 1 2. Announcement, distinguished guests from the RYSE research launch, you are invited to come back to the auditorium. We are starting very soon. I repeat, distinguished guests of the RYSE research launch, you are invited back to the auditorium. We are starting very soon. Thank you. Test mic 1 2, test mic 1 2. Announcement for the distinguished guests of RYSE Research Launch who are outside the auditorium. You are invited back into the auditorium as we are starting again soon. Thank you. Test mic 1 2, test mic 1 2. Welcome back, distinguished guests, to the second half of the 2023 RYSE Research Launch. I hope you have enjoyed that refreshing tea break and had the opportunity to network with your peers. It is always great to see new connections being made and ideas being exchanged. We have an exciting agenda ahead of us today, and the next segment promises to be both insightful and inspiring. As we get it back in this room, I want to encourage everyone to find comfort and be comfortable in their seats as we prepare to delve into the fascinating world of youth entrepreneurship and employability. Our next presenter, distinguished guest, is an important individual in RYSE's research endeavors and will take us through the key findings, trends, and solutions informed by RYSE's on-the-ground research that will empower our youth in upward mobility. Please be informed that this presentation will be followed by 10 minutes of Q&A afterwards, so feel free to present your questions to the presenter during this time. Distinguished guests, without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to our presenter, Ms. Chin Jia Wei, ARC Principal Research Associate, who will guide us through RYSE's research findings on youth entrepreneurship and employability. The floor is yours, Jia Wei.
Okay. Thank you, Farhan. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone has a nice tea break just now. And thank you for joining us today for our program and research launch. So, following Daniel's presentation of an overview of our programs, I'm going to share some of our research findings from our work since 2019. But before I move on to that topic, let me give a brief introduction to our research team. Okay, my name is Chin Jia Wei. Nice to meet you all. I'm the Principal Research Associate for ARC, so my main job role is to design and execute research for RYSE, analyze the data collected from it, and attempt publications in academic journals. All our research activities are supervised by our Associate Professor, Dr. Melati Nungsari, who is our research director. She's an applied microeconomist with expertise in industrial organization, market design, public policy, and research within the vulnerable groups in Southeast Asia. Our activities are also supported by our two research associates, Farhan and Sharon, who are also active in youth advocacy. So now I have done the introductions. Let's move to the agenda for my presentation today. So I will look into what kind of research methodology we use for RYSE, the data collected from it, and I will present a discussions of some of our published findings and its implications. And at the end, I will end this presentation with a summary. Due to our connections with the program team, we are given a great opportunity to have a wider reach to Malaysian youth. So with each major programs, we design the research around it to look into different entrepreneurship-related topics. But we have to be mindful that we have to have a healthy balance between program and research, meaning that while fulfilling our research needs, we have to be mindful to let our participants to still can enjoy and benefit from the program. So through collecting research data from different youth populations, we aspire to have a deeper and holistic understanding on youth entrepreneurship and employability. We also inform the program team on what works and didn't work with our participants. So with this two-way feedback between program and research, the program team are able to adapt future programs according to the current needs of our beneficiaries. Due to our variety of programs, we had the privilege to look into different topics and subsequently utilize various research methodology, which I will show a few examples in the following slides. We have RYSE Online, which is our online flagship entrepreneurship program, where we collected survey responses from this at the start and end of the program, and after a few months, we would give a follow-up survey. So this survey, they contain questionnaires about the demographic information, the entrepreneur-related personality traits, the motivation to start the business, and so on. Sometimes after the program, we will invite our participants for a research interview on selected topics, and depending on the need for that topic, we will assess the participants using cognitive tasks. So our recent and only example as of now, we try to assess the participants' conditional risk appetite by using a card game that we adapted from another published study. We have Tauke Talks, where RYSE program interviewed Malaysian micro-entrepreneurs on their entrepreneur journey, specifically how they get into business. So with our Tauke's consent, we have uploaded all the interviews on our YouTube channel. So feel free to scan the QR code to look at the interviews, or you can look up RYSE program on YouTube. So I will give around 5 seconds for So you have more time to scan the QR code. Okay, 5 seconds is up, so let me move on to our RYSE bootcamp, where the RYSE program engaged with Form 4 students in various occasions, KL, Sempona, and Sandakan, to engage with their entrepreneur awareness and skills. So during this program, we have a drawing session with the participants on selected topics. The examples would be, what is your dream life at age 30? How do you see yourself as an entrepreneur? What do you think about entrepreneurs? So this method can be used as a standalone data collection method, or you can complement it with interviews to further explain the drawings. We prefer to use this method with younger youths, as we found that during the session, they're definitely more attentive during the drawing session if you compare to a survey session. So this also meets the program goal of having the participants enjoy it. Okay, as you all can see, we attempt to achieve a holistic understanding on youth entrepreneurship by looking into different topics in different youth populations. So what have we found? Using the data we collected since 2019 and also our collaboration with Dr. Michael Mustafa, who is our research fellow from University of Nottingham, we have published currently 5 academic papers in journals related to entrepreneurship. And we still have several ongoing projects we are still analyzing and writing. If you want to know more about our papers, read our papers, feel free to scan the QR code there. For it, I'll give also around 5 seconds to do so. Okay, 5 seconds is up. Thank you. So instead of turning this 30-minute slot into a full 2-hour presentation, I'll be presenting a discussion of some of our published findings in the form of youth entrepreneurial journey from its formation of EI to its transition to EA. Before I move on, let me explain a bit about the terminology. So EI referring to the intention to start a business, while EA is they have acted on their intention and have become entrepreneurs. And specifically for this presentation, I'll be focusing on, throughout the stages of entrepreneurship, the effects of social, demographic, and contextual factors on youth EI and its transition to EA through several mechanisms or pathways. I'll be presenting 4 for this event. Okay, so the first one is urban and rural contexts. So as I previously mentioned, we have RYSE bootcamp where we engage with Form 4 students. So specifically, this finding is from Form 4 female students in KL and Sempona. So what we find interesting about this is how they view entrepreneurship. So for the KL girls, they have mixed reaction towards entrepreneurship, but most of them, they see entrepreneurship as a possible, viable, full-time career option. While it's a bit different for the Sempona girls. They generally have a positive view, but they do not see it as a first immediate option. So they prefer employment for these reasons, because it brings stability, but they kind of predicted that their future employment income might not be enough to cover daily expenses. So they will want to rely on a side business to fill up that gap. Secondly, they also see entrepreneurship as a backup option. So for example, in this drawing, okay, so this Sempona lady, I'm not going to say her name for anonymity reasons. Okay, she wished to be an air stewardess since young, but for various reasons, she thinks that she might not be one. So if that's the case, and if she can't achieve of her other aspired careers, she will resort to entrepreneurship, having a small business, opening a restaurant with a family at her hometown. And last of all, they would prefer to have a job first, to gain experience, skills, and start-up funds to start their business. In a way, the Sempona ladies, they have a very realistic but also pessimistic view on entrepreneurship and employability because they already predicted that their income might not be enough with the increasing inflation and so on. While when it comes to the KL girls, sorry, a bit slow. Okay, for the KL girls, their aspirations, no matter it's for entrepreneurship or for their life aspiration, are much larger. As you can see from the drawing, she draw a hotel, she draw a cafe, a shop, she dream about traveling around the world, and so on. So you can see, urban-rural context affected how our participants view the world, and specifically on entrepreneurship and employability. Just as a disclaimer, the recommendation implications that I presented here are not necessarily in our published papers because since time have passed since we published and our expanding experience with programs, our insights about our results has expanded since then. So coming back here. Okay, as you can see, urban-rural context affected their view. It would be great that institutions or organizations, they'll be mindful of the participants' background and interview the students, teachers, and even the local organizations on the entrepreneurial landscape there before they conduct any workshops or any interventions. This could be applied to other fields outside entrepreneurship, as what works in KL or other countries might not be the same in rural contexts or in other contexts. So it makes sure to localize the interventions. And next, to extend the program's impact on the students, it'd be nice to engage with the teachers on how they incorporate the program content into their daily teachings. But please be mindful not to overburden the teachers. Actually, this idea about engaging with the teachers is originally not from us, but is one of suggestions from the teachers from Senakan. We're like, that's a good idea, which is something that we will look into for future programs. Okay, that's for urban-rural context. Next is family financial background. So through investigating the effects of family income on our youth, on our RYSE online participants, we found that family income indirectly strengthens their EI through boosting their self-esteem. And if they are from a family with weaker financial background, they will need a stronger conviction in terms of proactiveness and higher internal locus of control to consider entrepreneurship. Before I move on, let me explain on the terminologies again. So proactive meaning the tendency to take the initiative to achieve goals, while internal locus of control meaning that you believe that your actions, your behaviors can give you the desired outcomes. So coming back to the results, what does this mean? It would suggest that low-income youth might not have the confidence to start a business, especially if they are not proactive or have lower internal locus of control. Our hypothesis is that these youths might prefer the stability from employment and not really from entrepreneurship, as it has some elements of risk inside. So how we can encourage this path in low-income youth? So the implications would be institutions or organizations, they can consider providing easy access to resources so that we can build the internal capacity of these participants to consider entrepreneurship. One would be having easy access to low cost or free entrepreneur education courses so that they can learn basic entrepreneur skills and knowledge, and they could apply that in business incubation program where seed funding and mentorship are provided. But do know that giving seed funding to the participants are never enough. It's enough to start their business, but not necessary to sustain it. So how to sustain their business? This is where mentorship from seasoned entrepreneurs or professionals chips in. So this can remove some of the roadblocks in their journey to entrepreneurship. We hope that through these initiatives, it will lower the opportunity cost for low-income youth to pursue entrepreneurship. Our collaboration with Dr. Michael on UNC students brought out a very interesting finding, which is how UNC students, EI, benefited from their UNC support for entrepreneurship is dependent on their level of proactiveness. From past literature, proactive individuals tend to have stronger intention to start a business, as they would proactively seek out resources. So we expect that university support will encourage this path in proactive students. But our results, surprisingly, prove us wrong. So the effects of perceived university support is more prominent in the low proactive students. As you can see from the red line here, it represents the low proactive students. The higher the university support, the higher the EI. But do note that these participants are from the same universities, so they're supposed to be exposed to the same university support in terms of education, concept development, and business development. But only low proactive students acknowledge the university role in their EI. And this relationship between these two variables weakens with stronger proactive students. So from past literature, it could be that medium to high proactive students already have the internal capacity to pursue entrepreneurship, which might lead them to view university support as non-essential. In a way, universities' entrepreneur-related initiatives or programs are on the right track, as it would compensate youths with insufficient level of internal traits to pursue entrepreneurship by providing resources. So now we know that University Day can support youth entrepreneurship through 3 pathways: education, concept development, meaning introducing a positive entrepreneurial ecosystem in the university context, and 3, business development. But connecting to our finding, it would be best to increase the program's visibility through social media campaigns and entrepreneur showcase, so that the students are aware of these critical support programs for entrepreneurship. So the previous results are on youth's entrepreneur intention, people who have the intention but then haven't acted on it. So now we're going to talk about our micro-entrepreneurs who have already acted on their intentions. Specifically, I'll be talking about their social networks and institutional support. So from our interviews with them, the presence of social networks is very strong in the starting point of their journey. So their friends and family contribute in 3 ways, which is providing financial support and practical help, such as in validating business ideas or helping in the business operations, offering their social connections for potential mentors, suppliers, potential customer base, and lastly, instilling passion and drive. So one of our examples, her father was a doctor with a strong interest in traditional medicine. So his interest shifted our micro-entrepreneurs' passion from applying makeup to local herbs, essential oils, and the science behind making it. If I'm not mistaken, her store is out there, ASEAN & Co. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to promote that publicly. Okay, okay, coming back to the results. So, when you think about it, these micro-entrepreneurs have already benefited from their strong social networks. But what if someone wants to be an entrepreneur, but then they do not have the privilege of having helpful, relevant others, or they do not have the privilege of helping relevant others, and also, or when these micro-entrepreneurs have exhausted their resources from their social network. Furthermore, we found a weak presence of institutional support in terms of entrepreneur-related initiatives and programs from the government and related organizations in our micro-entrepreneurs narrative. So it could be that it's not that they don't have these initiatives, it could be that they are not aware of, which is kind of odd considering that there's a call for more entrepreneurs to boost the economy, and also for other various reasons such as employability and so on. But this could be similar to the proactive university students in that these micro-entrepreneurs already utilizes the resources from their social network. So they have a decreased reliance on external support that could be the case. So coming back to the problem statement, if someone wants to be an entrepreneur, but they do not have a strong social network to rely on, and they are not aware of these initiatives, so what can they do? So this leads to one of RYSE's future objectives to start a community of micro-entrepreneurs, where opportunities in mentorship, collaborations, sharing of resources, such as these initiatives and programs, and consultations are provided. So we hope that through this community, micro-entrepreneurs from all stages can support each other. And I finished presenting all four factors. So now I'm going to give a quick recap of the findings. Okay, rural youth tend to prefer stable employment over entrepreneurship, which is seen from our first finding. It's in the form of either they have a job first, and then to complement that income with a side business. Another way is have a job first, gain the skills, experience, and the start of funds, then they start the business. Second, from our results on family financial background and UC support, youths who are low in certain internal traits, they will need more external support to strengthen their EI, which can be seen from the UC support for entrepreneurship and possibly our own programs. And last of all, from our interviews with our micro-entrepreneurs, the contribution of social network are essential in the early stages, while the presence of entrepreneur-related initiatives are a bit weak in their narratives. So how does RYSE contribute to the youth entrepreneurship ecosystem? So with their expanding experience with program coupled with our research and impact findings, they are able to adapt future programs and form data-backed programs. And we hope to see new research opportunities within them. And acknowledging that we need to have a comprehensive view of entrepreneurship, we will continue our current collaboration, and we have recently signed an MOU with AKPK to look into entrepreneurs about their financial matters, which we really look forward to. So this is the end of my presentation. I hope everyone can stay tuned to our social media for further news on our publications and our future programs, which will come soon. I would like to say thank you to our past RYSE associates enabling our research and our current RYSE and ARC colleagues who help organize this event. And I hope to see their contribution in our future program and research. Thank you. So Q&A, Sarah.
Oh, Joe, you can.
Sorry.
All right, distinguished guests, we are now opening the floor to Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to approach the microphones that we have on both sides of the auditorium. Might there be any questions at the current moment? Yes, Lisa.
Hello, hi, my name is Awal from Chowkit Youth. I have two questions.
Okay.
One question is, may we know about the demography of your research from KL and Sampurna, the family demography, which is their family is income below 2,500? Or for example, in KL, you say you do research in KL. What's the component demography are you using? The kids are the youth are from Kota Damansara or the youth from PPRT? So I want to know that. The second one, you say you want to you have programs in Sampurna. Are you going to opening office in Sampurna, or you just going to do online programs with them? Or are you focusing in KL, the RYSE program? Are you focusing in KL only, or you want to reach out to Sampurna? So that's the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Awa. I hope I pronounced your name right. Okay, so for the first question, about our KL and Sampurna, the family demographics, actually in our paper, we have kind of like mapped out what's their family background. So just to kind of give a summary, so when we approach the PPD, or rather we approach each other, they will find schools from low income, like the majority of their students are from low income families. And they're not considered like, high potential schools. From the KL and Sempona, most of their family background would be, most of the Sempona is below 1,005 for most of our participants. While for our KL participants, it's around that figure also, but only slightly higher than the Sempona participants. So, yeah, I should have put that in my slides. Thank you. I should have put it B40 participants. But then but when it comes to, we invite the participants to our programs, we invite all of them. But then we still ask the PPD to try to see which schools need our help more, which is these schools with more low-income participants. So, and the second question about Sempona, these boot camps are all physical boot camps. Yeah. So recently we went to Sandakan, which is this year May. We were there for like 3 weeks, and then we have the boot camp in 4 schools. So each school has like 3 days of boot camp. It's a very fun time there. So same with Sempona and KL, we go to the school there to give the boot camp. Is my answer okay? Thank you.
All right,
Okay.
we are open for next questions. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Liang from the Asia Foundation. Thank you for the presentation. It's amazing findings and really
Thank you.
would also fit into our work. But I have 2 questions. Just want to understand if you have disaggregated data on gender, like male and female, or is there a difference in the findings? And you mentioned about the lack of exposure and awareness in institutional support. Just want to understand, is this from secondary school or colleges or community colleges? Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Hi, Lian. Okay, so from the first question, ask about whether we have gender differences. Okay, we do have, like for the first factor, urban-rural context, in the original paper, we are going to compare between male and female. But unfortunately, we do not have male participants from the KL side. So hence, we cannot compare between gender. But then for the UNC students, sorry, that's for future paper. Okay. Yeah, but yes, we do look into the difference in between genders in terms of entropy intention and so on. Currently, we found that because there are mixed findings on whether males have stronger or females have stronger EI in the literature. But currently, throughout the few programs that we have, so not all the results that we have we publish in papers. So most of the programs we have, there are no significant difference between female and male students in terms of their intention to start a business. But then from when we look into the interviews in our RYSE-linked participants and also our micro-entrepreneurs, it seems that maybe the concept of entrepreneurship is a bit different between male and female participants, which we wish to explore more in future interviews. Yes. For the second question, oh yeah, you mentioned about institutional related support. Okay. It's not only from the secondary school, because in our micro-entrepreneurs narrative, I think one of the programs that they mentioned was a Young Arts Entrepreneur program, which they have received training in that and helped to start their business. But then not all of our micro-entrepreneurs are from that background. So from that, they rely more on their social network, of course, and their own resources to start a business. So we don't really see, it seems like it's either they lack the awareness of these kind of initiatives from the government, from the schools, and other related organizations, or it could be that they already benefited enough from their social networks. So connecting to our findings about the UNC support for entrepreneurship, it would be good that they put more emphasis on the marketing strategies for this program so that all youths or their UNC students and anyone can be aware of these critical support programs. So at least that when they're thinking on how am I going to start a business, they know where to look for the resources. Because for some people, they might not know that. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Thank you. And I believe you have a question. Sorry.
Yes, just a quick announcement that this will be the final question. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up next, but yes, feel free. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was an amazing presentation and very much insightful. But I'm not sure that this is might be a question or perhaps a recommendation. But I would like to know whether when you selected the participants, have you looked into the participants' background? I mean, particularly whether or not are the participants' background, their parents, are they from entrepreneurial family background or no family background? Because I believe that subjective norm or relevant norms, particularly like having exposure to a family of entrepreneur, might affect their intention. Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, we agree to that. So for the urban-rural context, when I mentioned about that rural youth, Sempurna youth, they have a more general positive view of entrepreneurship. While the KL, they have a mixed views, some of them, but then they see it as a full-time career path. But the difference is when it comes to the Sempurna youth, most of them have family members who are either micro-entrepreneurs or they are in the informal sector. So many of them, they have experience in helping with the business, at least know about what's happening in the family member's business. So that even though this rural youth, they already have the self-efficacy, knowing that actually they can do, but then they still prefer to have a job first. So in a sense, maybe the concept of entrepreneurship is a bit different on how KL youths views entrepreneurship. But we do look at whether they have whether they are from an entrepreneur family or not. I hope that answers your question.
All right, this marks the end of the Q&A. Thank you so much for engaging with us, dear audience. Thank you so much. This has been a very wonderful session. And thank you so much, Ms. Chin Jiaowei, for the eye-opening and informative presentation on youth entrepreneurship and employability. Distinguished guests, yes, please give Ms. Chin Jiaowei a round of applause. Distinguished guests, we hope our findings were able to impart important insights into our youth's future and spark meaningful conversations towards progress. Up next, as yet another key moment for the 2023 RYSE research launch, we have a great lineup of panelists who will be discussing the topic, supporting Malaysian micro-entrepreneurs. This panel session will be moderated by our very own RYSE Program Manager, Mr. Daniel Al-Bakri, and joined by our speakers, Dr. Melati Nungsari, Faculty Director of the ASEAN Research Centre, Dr. Michael Mustafa, Associate Professor of Entrepreneurship and Management at the University of Nottingham, Malaysia, Dr. Azri Tamgis, Senior Advisor at the SME Financial Education Department of Agency Counselling dan Pengurusan Kredit, AKPK, and Mr. Azlan Aladin, founder of Clover. Before I pass the stage over to the moderator, I would like to go over a couple of housekeeping rules for the audience. Firstly, please ensure that your mobile phones are on silent, and do save your questions for the Q&A session at the end of this discussion. Here's to an insightful and impactful dialogue with the diverse perspectives of our 4 esteemed panelists. Now, we will go on a very, very quick intermission as we wait for the speakers to get ready. Feel free to take a breather for about a minute or so. Thank you. Distinguished guests, as we begin our next panel session, please give a big round of applause for our panelists. I pass this session over to you now, Daniel.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully, this next segment is going to be a thought-provoking discussion on supporting micro-entrepreneurs. So we brought to you together a panel of distinguished experts and experienced people from a range of disciplines to discuss how we can support the development of micro-entrepreneurs. So among our panelists today is our very own microeconomist, Dr. Melati Nungsari. Hello. Okay, no hello to everyone else? Okay, and also is Dr. Azri Tamjis, Senior Advisor at SME Financial Education Department of AKPK, Agency Counseling dan Pengurusan Credit, who's an enthusiastic supporter of financial literacy. Also with us today is Dr. Michael Mustafa, Associate Professor of Entrepreneurship and Management, Head of Division of Organizational and Applied Psychology, University of Nottingham, Malaysia. Welcome, Michael. And last but not least, obviously, is successful business owner Azlan Aladdin, who founded Kalava. If you had any of the ice cream outside, that's his business, who has first-hand experience with difficulties and the rewards of launching and growing a micro business. And now, not so micro anymore. Yeah. All right, so our discussion today aims to explore some creative approaches, policy measures, educational initiatives that can kind of empower micro-entrepreneurs to thrive, basically, in a very much increasingly competitive marketplace. So we're going to go through economic ramifications, the importance of financial literacy, the function of education there, and also hear about their direct experiences. So without further ado, let's begin. I will start off with Melati, Dr. Melati. So the question here is, what are the main factors that contribute to youth unemployment in Malaysia? And how can they be addressed to enhance youth employability?
Thank you so much, Daniel, for that question. So I think if you compare youth unemployment rates across the Asia Pacific, Malaysia's youth unemployment rate is actually not as high as some of our other neighboring countries. So I think Indonesia has a higher rate than we do. And I think we heard from YB Adam just now, which is true, which is that through a variety of different initiatives, youth unemployment has actually been getting better in Malaysia. And so there's a lot of things that contribute to that. A lot of youth, for example, are pursuing training. They're doing sort of other economic modalities of getting money that is not sort of formal employment. But there is also, I think, a sense in which I think one of our big problems in the ecosystem is not youth unemployment per se, because again, the number is not as high, but youth underemployment. So, thinking about like the RYSE work, we're thinking about, college graduates who are not able to get jobs that sort of match the qualifications. At ASB, I think we're very concerned because it's very difficult to sort of persuade people to invest in yourself if they don't see sort of whether that investment is going to lead to anything, right? So there are a variety of different things, but I think entrepreneurship can come in as sort of a supplement, I think, to the idea that millions, we have, I think, 2.5 million graduates who are underemployed. right? So thinking about how do those people sort of make up the difference in terms of money, in terms of economic outcomes, I think entrepreneurship can kind of be a supplement to all of that.
All right, thanks. By the way, the other panelists, if you want to chime in, feel free to do so. It's not like one question to one person only. But I do have a question to Dr. Azri, if no one else wants to chime in there. So what is the current state of financial literacy among SME entrepreneurs, especially in Malaysia? And what risk does this actually pose to their well-being and their future prospects?
All right, thanks Daniel for the question. I think basically it's a very interesting question. We're talking about literacy level. It's quite difficult to measure in that sense, but at the moment we find mixed level of literacy between the micro entrepreneurs, depending on which background that they were, or they are in that sense. Basically, for instance, we were talking about the researchers now, those who are coming from rural would actually have a different profile compared to those young, the one who's actually coming from the city or urban areas. So you can see the differences in that sense. Yeah, I mean, it's still low at certain point when we talk to the micro. I've been dealing lots, and I've done a lot of programs with the micros, Daniel. I think it's pretty shocked sometimes. We always thought that the micros it's always depend on which background they are from. If you're talking about their educational are quite low, those who are coming from PMR or even SPM, for instance, they do not have that basic ideas. Even if you talk about P&L, simple P&L, or even balance sheet, for instance, they don't understand how to actually calculate their profits. The one that comes from them has always been sales. My sales were good, but at the end of the day, they do not know how to manage costs and things like that. So this is some of the things that we think that it does affect the small businesses, especially micros. We're talking about the moms and pops shops in that sense. So these are some of the things that at the end of the day, it will affect their well-being as well, all right? I mean, you know the small businesses, the business is just, when you talk about the micros, the commingling of cash or even income, it's actually, oh, that's my business. I mean, at the end of the day, they were unable to separate between business and their personal expenses in that sense. So that creates some vulnerability to themselves. Yeah, I think it will affect some well-being. We're talking about opportunities in the future. So what if there's new opportunities coming in? So it's quite difficult for them even to catch up or even to ride on this, right? So these are some of the problems that we see. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about one day they're going to be retired, even with their businesses. Some would be remaining, become micro all the way. Right? They do not actually grow themselves. So these are some of the things that we think that we require a lot of things, a lot of programs, a lot of supports, either from the government or, I mean, even universities like this. It require help. I mean, that is one of the things that, on our side, Noni KPK, yeah, I mean, this is the time where we actually come up with a lot of things as well. So we try to handhold some of these small micro businesses, especially the vulnerable segments, the one that comes from B40, the one with income even less than 100,000 at certain point of time, right? So these are the things that would affect them. Some of them, when it comes to financial literacy, it's quite low. They don't even know how to compute interest rate at some point. So we need some baseline to work out. So I think it's our work as well in order to help these micro businesses. All right, so I think that's my point of view, unless the others have some views on that as well.
Okay. Actually, to follow up on that,
yeah.
So do you feel that is where a greater emphasis needs to be is on stopping people from going into debt, losing their money for those micros, or is it a case of getting them to learn how to grow and make more money? Is it more about reducing costs, or is it more about increasing profits, increasing revenues, do you think?
All right, I mean, it has to be both in that sense. Very interesting question. If you just talk about revenue in that sense, I mean, it requires a lot of effort to do a lot of marketing and things like that. The thing is, we talk about digital world, we talk about TikTok, we talk about, I mean, even the social media. So it does help to boost and increase revenue. But at the same time, now it's being pressured. We're talking about inflation nowadays, right? So some of the things are imported. So most of the things that the costs are rising. So at the end of the day, it's all about balancing between cost and revenue in order to get enough and adequate profit. So these, when we talk to them, I think most of them, the micros are very pressured in terms of cost. But at the same time, when they increase their sales or the price of the goods, you'll be pressured by not having demand. So it's not easy to balance for them. I think if you go to RAM or RAM CTOS study, they even say that, is there any, one of the questions were asked, do you increase your price during this current headwinds? They say they did, but at the end of the day, their profit actually gone down during that period of time. So you know that balancing factors is very crucial for them.
So I think something to add as well, which is something that YB Adam said, which I thought was interesting. So he was saying like, it's also very difficult to compete when you're selling very low value goods, like food, right? Like he was saying like, well, when KBS, when the Kementerian Belia dan Sukan, they bring people in, and he said they asked people to come, he said like, like 80% of them will be selling like fried food. And like, I don't know that you can compete or grow really and grow profit margins on something that is so, right? So I think there is a sense in which the micro-entrepreneurship system, because it's easy to do food, has become very sort of low-value food-based, which I don't think is good. So we're not talking about innovations like Clava is doing. We're talking about, sort of like one sale is like 1 ringgit, right? Or like 50 cents or something like that. So maybe you have some thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good thought. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're talking about survival. So some of the things, I mean,
but
if you
I
don't
think
have
there's
the
a difference
skills,
between like survival and like trying to tell somebody who is selling doing necessity entrepreneurship to grow their business, because I don't think there's much space to grow.
Correct, yeah. I mean, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's all about survivorship. At the end of the day, it's not about growing. So that's the only thing is that if they improve, they innovate at some point,
Then
there's always somebody actually follows. There'll be a second step follower just behind you.
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing that they have to think about and be innovate and creative in their businesses. I guess that's one of the things that they have to look at.
Okay, so rolling on, creativity is important. So Michael, you teach a lot of entrepreneurship. So beyond that, what other important skills and qualities will help make an entrepreneur be successful in this case? And also, can these all be taught? Is this something that you can just teach in a classroom or in a webinar?
That's a topic in itself. But I'll tackle this in a couple of ways. So I agree things like financial literacy is really important, because not only does it help you run that business, but if you go out to get sort of funding or whatever, somebody's going to ask you, do you understand the financial metrics? Can you show me your financial metrics? They won't give you money if you don't have that. But you mentioned creativity, and I think creativity is an essential skill. But I look at this on a couple of different levels. So the first quality I would say is an innovator's mindset. And that would be not just coming up with new ideas, but an attitude towards innovativeness with everything they do in their business. How they set it up, how they build relationships, how they market, etc. A proactive attitude, okay? Like you said before, if you go out into the market space, come up with a new idea, you're going to have 99 followers behind you. But can you keep going out there? Can you keep searching for those opportunities? And also living with risk and understanding that any time we venture into the unknown and we do things innovatively and creatively, there is going to be risk. That, I think, are sort of essential qualities. But what we often miss are those meta qualities that I think people have and a lot of Malaysians have that we just need to nurture to bring out and give them some arenas and space to perform. So what are these sort of meta things? Problem solving and identification. Okay? We look around us, society isn't perfect. There's a lot of inefficiencies out there, and there's a lot of way both micro-entrepreneurs or even regular entrepreneurs can help alleviate some of those problems, whether they're economic problems or social problems that we face. But many people aren't apt at finding opportunities and having a problem-solving mindset. The second one I think is really often misunderstood is the role of empathy. Can we take other people's perspectives and can we demonstrate concern? And the third I would add to this is in the sense of leadership skills, because if you're going to grow a business, you're going to have to upscale. And that will eventually require a level of management, shifting an entrepreneur from a micro-entrepreneur to a leader and a manager. And the most important one is, to me, a learning attitude, an orientation, a willingness and hunger to continuously learn, to seek out learning opportunities. If you don't know, find them. Back to your second question, can this be taught? It can be, to a certain degree. And I really feel very strongly that we need to be giving people, whether it's young students or university students, safe spaces to engage in entrepreneurship. It's not just about build, 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 but it's sometimes about build, learn, fail, build, again, learn, fail, and continue that process until they are confident enough to say that I can walk away with some certain skills that I can now go on a more riskier venture or something like that. Yeah.
All right. So Aslan, do you think you have those traits as an entrepreneur?
Yes and no. I'm no expert. I'm not a doctor.
I think you're the most expert on the stage. Yeah.
Lived experience.
I can only share what has worked for me a little. So I think resilience is very important. I see running a business a bit like playing a game where luck plays a factor. So by being resilient, you increase your chance of getting lucky. So it's just quite simple. You have to accept that you're going to fail many, many times, then you succeed. Secondly, I would also add the point of focus. This might sound like common sense, but we live in a world with attention is depleting. I mean, focus is depleting with this rise of digital technology, social media. It might sound simple to just focus on what you're trying to achieve, but you'll be surprised if you try to work on something for, say, half an hour now. You'll be surprised on how hard it is right now compared to like maybe 10 years ago, because we are constantly being, our attention is constantly being fragmented by, you say, notifications and stuff. So, another thing I would share is that for any micro entrepreneurs out there, is that to focus, if you're small, like how I was, focus on your distribution and product. These are the two most important things. Where and how you're going to sell it, and your product has to be good. I mentioned distribution first because I see it as more important than the product itself. Because you can have a tremendous product, but if you haven't worked out the business model, where exactly, how people are going to come across your product, it's not going to sell. I emphasize this because I see a lot of micro entrepreneurs, they tend to focus more on things that don't matter so much when you're small. Things like competition, for example. When you're really small, if you spend too much time worrying what the other person is doing, it's sort of like counterproductive to you. You just have to focus on your own product and your own distribution. If you're Maxis, what Digi does matters a lot to you because you're big. But if you're at micro level, I would suggest to focus on those two.
So,
No, I just so can you tell us what ice cream?
I was just going to say, so what's your product? You're talking about product and distribution.
No, because like I'm always very I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm always very curious what sets somebody like yourself in your business in F&B doing very well, very innovative. Tell me sort of why ice cream?
Oh, okay.
And how the innovation.
There's a bit of a personal story to that.
That's fine.
Okay.
If you want to share.
Okay, sure. Back in 2016, I was an accountant who had worked in the field for about 10 years. But I always felt this yearning to like create something. I know I wanted to do it, but I just didn't know like what and how. But me and my girlfriend at that time, we decided to like adopt plant-based lifestyle, and quickly we noticed there's a gap in the local market. And she, being a huge ice cream lover, said that we should, if you want to start something, maybe this could be it. And I made the leap just from, because nowadays, if you have the will, you can learn pretty much anything from the internet. I had zero experience in F&B or running a business, but I taught myself some ice cream science, they would say, ice cream chemistry, which is not complicated. Anyone can learn it if you are interested enough. which is actually is coming back to the previous things that they mentioned. Food is there's very low barrier to entry in food.
Yeah.
Yeah, but ice cream, there's a little bit higher barrier because because of the equipment. It's harder to make ice cream than compared to cookies, for example. And
There's
also
some chemistry behind it.
the
as well.
chemistry behind it, yes, because you need to know, let's say, air inside the liquid, this kind of stuff, content of fat, content of sugar, which is still not very complicated. You can learn it too.
I think I would just sort of build on what you've said there, Azan, and that one thing we often forget is that passion is really paramount, right? Any type of entrepreneurial activity requires passion. It's just not something that you do for 4 hours a day. You talked about focus in this. It's not something you do for 4 hours a day and then put it away. You're living and breathing it. So you really need to be passionate about what you're doing, what you're selling, and actually how you're sort of doing it. And to that extent, that idea of resilience, because there's going to be 99 problems, right? Every day, you're going to get that one that's going to work out. And that resilience is a capability I think we don't teach youth a lot anymore. We expect that, you know, you can go out and find a solution or support. Yes, you can, but resilience is something that can be learned over time. And if you look around to many successful entrepreneurs and their histories, they've been hit with resilience and they've been hit with problems and setbacks, but they've found a resilient way to overcome them each time. And that's what really sets them apart in the longer term.
Just a question in that sense. I mean, how do you actually take that risk? I mean, from working as an accountant, for instance, and then suddenly you were to jump into being an entrepreneur. You're talking about uncertainties. You're talking about, I mean, a lot of things that you probably don't know even basically because you don't even know the chemistry of ice cream, for instance. You need to self-taught yourself. So how do you have that perseverance to actually endure into entrepreneurship?
First of all, I've been one of those lucky ones who got a lot of support from people around me, my family, my wife. So I think it means a lot. From the research finding also, we noticed that this plays a huge role in supporting entrepreneurs. So I've been one of the lucky ones. They didn't support me financially. So I started the business still with my own savings. So that was one of the main challenges. But I think having a financial literacy helped me a lot because I know, when I can see the number, I know for sure how well we are doing. So I think financial literacy kind of like helped me so much. It wasn't even, I didn't even consider a challenge to do bookkeeping for me. It's just, it's there, it's done. So from having my P&L, my cash flow always there, I always can see the business more clearly. And that helped me to be resilient, helped me.
All right. So let's bring it down to like youths again. And this is a question from Malati, right? So in terms of for youths, what's our current like existing challenges that we have in trying to foster entrepreneurship among youths? Yes, there's an education angle too, but I'm sure there's other points to make there. And what sort of policy measures can be implemented or that we can suggest that can encourage entrepreneurial skills and ventures by Malaysian youths?
So I think Michael probably has quite a bit to say about this as well, given that he's in the business of training entrepreneurs. But I do feel like there are, I think at RYSE and at ASB, we typically try to think about a lot of entrepreneurial skills like what was mentioned, like creativity, proactiveness, innovativeness, resilience. All of these are skills that serve entrepreneurs well, but I think also serve just general adults well, right? So I think sometimes it's hard to sell people on just entrepreneurship programs itself with the goal of you becoming an entrepreneur, but I think if we think about it as like a training system that equips you with characteristics that also enable you to do, be a better worker at the workplace, be more entrepreneurial in your own passions that may not sort of be revenue generating per se. I think that is sort of a bigger ecosystem to look at and something that I think is quite interesting. Do you have anything to add to that, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely agree with you sort of 100% in that these are skills that any sort of employer looks for, especially those who are going straight in from graduation into employment. So problem solving, they crop up a lot. The question is do we teach it enough in our education system and low enough? When I say low enough, do we go down to the really core? When you look at some of these countries which are having high rates of entrepreneurship, so Netherlands being one of them, they're really getting down to almost now primary school level, you know, encouraging critical problem-solving skills, risk-taking, all of this at a very young age. And it's having some great follow-on effects later on for these people.
Yeah, and I think that's to add on, Michael, as well. So when you're asking for funding from people, typically they want to start programs off at like uni level and stuff like that. But I think the reality is that, like what Michael said, you really need to catch them much earlier. We catch them at 16 through RYSE, but even then I feel like is a bit late.
And just to sort of slightly add to that, the question is, who are we catching? A quick survey of most entrepreneurship sort of training or education in the Malaysian landscape firmly focuses on students enrolled in business faculties. But actually, when we look around, a lot of the great entrepreneurs are coming from not business faculties. They're coming from hard STEM subjects, engineering. But when you actually look at what's happening in the faculties there's very little support in terms of building these skills up. They're sort of just assumed to happen. So, you know, institutionally wise, we should be looking at sort of this whole institution approach almost at every level. Yeah.
Right. So in terms of, we're talking about challenges there in terms of fostering that entrepreneurial spirit, but maybe in terms of also financial literacy for youths. What are the main challenges that you face, and you know, what the sort of barriers that are there to kind of make youths more financially aware and more financially smart with their money, and also to a degree their businesses?
I think again, it's all about the discussion just now. It's all about getting the youth to understand. It has to be infused somehow in the formal education. Yeah. That is one of the things that we looked at. But I remember because my son, my children, basically have to undergo some interest rate compounding in.
That's hard to teach.
Yeah, it's actually
hard
hard.
To teach a 30-year-old to teach compound interest.
But we're talking about that in school now.
Yeah, that's
so,
good.
So, yeah, it's in the Form 3 syllabus, and even Form 4, Form 5, if I'm mistaken. They have to learn insurance as well as taxation. I mean, that's good, but is it really effective? I mean, as you mentioned, it's hard, but are they able to actually capture that? So these are something. I'm sure that one day, if you have children, that's what they're going to face in the future. So yeah, again, that's how it's overcoming. It's at the end of the day, when you want to work to overcome something, it has to be the whole machinery has to work. It can't be in a silo. I mean, you're talking about universities, you're talking about the government agencies. I mean, if you're just working as silos, you won't be able to get that particular objective at the end of the day, right? So it has to be in one machinery that works with everyone. That's my view when it comes to working out how can you actually working out with people. But when it comes to back again to financial literacy, I think AKPK we are basically trying to push hard for everyone to actually learn the baseline, the basics of financials. All right, so I mean, you can actually talk about savings and all that, but when it comes to micro entrepreneurs, I mean, ours are more of the financial management itself. We do not want to touch a bit about like the way how you do marketing, TikTok or whatever it is, but that is a different story altogether. But it goes back to the core of the financial management. It's about recording their systems. Now, even at AKPK, if you're talking about tools, we actually have My Bijak Niaga for you actually use. I mean, those are free items. You just have to key in. You don't need debit and credit to understand the whole financial system. But at the end of the day, you need to understand whether I'm making profit, whether I have enough money to actually sustain, whether I have a good shareholders fund to grow. So these are some of the things that we actually infuse to them. Because they don't have that understanding, the basic understanding, hey, why do I need to make profit? Right? They can't even differentiate between profits and sales, for instance. They can actually go beyond profit to take for themselves. So these are some of the basic things. I mean, at the end of the day, getting them to understand this is quite difficult as well. So you really need to handhold them. So when you handhold, you can't reach the whole general public in that sense. So you can only get a few in the pockets. So that's the best that we can do at the moment.
Okay, all right. So for you, Aslan, since you've been a bit quiet now for a while, because you mentioned in terms of, okay, with the important things the things you consider important in terms of running a business. But if you think about the early days, right, when you first started, right, what were the things what was very important for you to kind of get the scaling, to actually drive your business and actually grow it? Is it purely just the distribution and things that you mentioned earlier? Was there other things involved there to start off from small to spreading out?
Yes. Access to capital is probably the most common, biggest challenge for any entrepreneurs out there, and I faced it as well. Like I mentioned, I started business with my own savings, and at all times I wish I had more access to money, because you always come up with an idea, but all these ideas would always require some money to be realized, right? So I wish there's more institutional support also, in a way, like what SME is doing. Say, maybe I'm ignorant about this, but maybe there's one platform, one place where entrepreneurs can get consultation. What are the financing options available to them? What are the pros and cons? What are the requirements?
This doesn't exist as of now?
Not that I'm aware of, or at least it's not popular enough. It's not a thing that youth are like talking about. Let's say you go to this place to get it. I mean, nobody, they're sort of in the dark, I think.
I think it's disparate at the moment. It's somewhere here, somewhere there. Yeah. So there's no central point for you to refer, especially for the youth.
Institutional support also comes from not only supporting the micro entrepreneurs like yourself. I mean, your access to capital is a really good example, but bending people's mindsets who are in those institutions to understand the unique needs of micro entrepreneurs. Because the last thing that you want, obviously, is to be having a bank manager and you going out there and saying, I've got this great idea, this is how I'm going to push it, and he looking at traditional financial metrics and making a decision based on those, on something that is a new venture which has totally different set of metrics. And this is sometimes sort of the hidden cost, I think, that we don't actually think about, where people in systems, do they actually understand the needs of entrepreneurs? And do they look at things through an entrepreneurial lens rather than a traditional business lens?
Yeah. So Azlan, back to you. Where did you learn how to do this? Because your background was in accounting, so okay, I understand the ability, the bookkeeping is fine. But marketing, all the other aspects in running a business, where did you learn that?
You have very nice packaging.
Yeah.
Where did you learn that?
Right. If you didn't have access to, a one-stop shop entrepreneurs.
A lot of things can be outsourced these days, if you know where to look. Packaging, you can go to Fiverr, which is a platform for designers. It's like a gig economy for designers. You can, the name is Fiverr because they used to pay $5 per design. That's how cheap it is. And you get designers from all over the world. So a lot of things are available online these days. From the family, I have siblings and also sister-in-laws who work in marketing, PR, sort of like continuous learning for me. I didn't take up a course or anything like that. So yeah, again, I've been lucky in that sense that I can pick up these things around, and also from the internet.
Yeah, that's where I imagine it's going to be the internet. Anyway, so I think we're going over a bit of time in terms of my set questions here. We're actually going to open up questions to the floor for if anyone in the audience would like to ask the panel some questions. You can head over to either of the two microphones on the standees there. Okay, we have one question over there. You guys answered so well, they have nothing else to add.
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm from ASB Postdoc. I was curious about the gap between formality and informality, because as I understand it, only 10% of Malaysians pay tax at all, so tax is not really a big thing, and then I would assume most hawkers are completely informal. There's no bookkeeping, there's nothing there. So how does that maybe fit with educating entrepreneurs and then linking it to maybe the tax base and things like that, kind of the big picture?
I think the entrepreneur should answer this.
For me, because I started paying tax almost as soon as I started working. But yes, a lot of most Malaysians do not pay tax for the reason that their income is lower than the threshold. But if you are a registered business, you are required to submit your returns. I'm not an expert in this because, but also even if you're a small business, you have to submit your personal income tax. But I don't think the government really go after these small businesses in Malaysia. But if you're a limited liability company, for example, it is a requirement, just like in other parts of the world. You have to submit, you have to file your taxes. I'm sorry, did I answer your question?
No, I was just curious that you have such a large informal sector. I mean, does that harm or hinder the whole entrepreneurial process? I mean, in your case, you were legit from the beginning, but I would imagine many micro-entrepreneurs are completely illegal.
Let me give you a very stark
example. Let Michael.
A few years ago, I was fortunate enough to do some research, and this is slightly off, but it's with a family business. And the family business is in Ipoh. It was 98 years old, very small family business. They shut the family business down because they had a fear of implementing GST, which at that time was proposed. Because they'd been running this business quite informally. Yeah. Very simple bookkeeping, no need to go and really get loans, no really need to interact with any institution. So there is a threshold, I believe, that any entrepreneur or business owner has to make a decision at, is when do I formalize? And does the cost of formalization outweigh what activity I'm doing? So it could be a point where it's easier to go informally for a longer period of time, but at lower value, than take the leap to grow. Because all that time spent on administration, setting up things, is taking away from their core business or their passion. So it is really an issue. And I think it's a challenge that the Malaysian government has to somehow address, because without that formality, it's very hard to get directed support. We don't have accurate numbers as to how many micro-entrepreneurs there are in Malaysia, how many startups there are, and we may never know how many succeeded or failed. And without that data, and that data comes through formalization.
Correct. Can I just add up?
Yeah, sure.
So basically, just to add, when it comes to the informal, I think based on the estimates, it's almost like 2 million. I'm not so sure about that, but that is only based on estimates. We're talking about the formal, the SME numbers from SME Corps. We're talking about almost 1 million nowadays. And most of them, about 900,000, are actually micros, but those are the registered ones. Again, but the numbers does not really tally when it comes to registration of businesses. You go to SSM or the Company Commission of Malaysia. So you can see almost 8 million registered business. So there's a big gap in numbers and all that. So, but the thing that I want to mention here when it comes to informal and formal, you talk about taxation, I think it's very interesting. So the normal threshold is about 36,000. So as long as your profit is actually below 36,000, I think basically they don't have to pay tax. And I think the awareness of paying tax is also not there, except now it has been increasingly better when it comes to awareness, because the tax people are actually now catching them up. The simplest way, I mean, the government idea during MCO was brilliant, because at that point of time, it says businesses who are affected, go and register yourself with Lembaga Hasil Dalam Negeri. You know Lembaga? It's LHDN. So basically, you need to register with LHDN in order to get that only 3,000 support coming from the government. You know what happened next year? They asked them to declare your tax. because now they are already in the database of the IRB, the Inland Revenue. So that's how they actually did it. Informal, I think there's a lot of business going on, but I think most of them are probably not that big in nature, because once you really wanted to go or grow, you still have to go into the formal sector. So that is how they did. I think one of AKPK is actually pushing them to actually register their businesses, because at the end of the day, when you do businesses, if you're still using your personal accounts, it just does not support you at the end of the day. Am I right? So even if you want to pay, you do some transaction, you actually wanted to pay to personal, then to personal account, it questions you a lot of things. Is this a scam or what? Is this a prank or what? So these are some of the things that you look into. So that is basically, I hope that answers. So when it comes to informal, I think one of the things that the government have to do is actually now making them into the formal sector, transfer them. When it comes to tax, I think they have to push more for them to declare their tax, regardless whether they have to pay or not to pay due to the threshold. I think these are some of the things that they need to look into, I guess.
But informality is actually good for a variety of things. Like I do feel like people need to pay taxes, but going after micro entrepreneurs for not paying taxes is, I don't know. They're bigger fish in Malaysia, much higher value contributed. So I actually think informality is good for entrepreneurship.
Thank you.
Yes. And business people don't like some of that stuff. But
I think you must make easier for the informal to become a formal business.
Yeah, that one I agree.
That is one of the things. So give them a little bit of incentives somehow. I guess that is one of the things that you need to move forward.
All right, thank you, Peter. Any other questions from the floor? We got two.
Hi, I'm Shafika, law firm owner. I just have one question. I need the opinion from the panelists. Is there any recommendation from the panelists, let's say, for the business owner to grow and sustain their business beside formal education, funding from the government, mentorship? Is there any other recommendation? Thank you.
besides government, formal education, mentorship.
And mentorships.
Sorry, what are the...
So what else can entrepreneurs do, basically, to sort of succeed aside from government programs, formal education,
as well as mentorship.
And mentorship.
Building a community
yeah,
of practice.
I was about to say community, right? Yeah. Like what you said, like I think if you have an ecosystem that you can tap into for not necessarily financial resources, but support, you know, where do I go if I have this problem? I think that could be another thing.
And so much of what we focus on is things that are physical support, but
Yeah.
right? But you know, those sort of networks, those sort of online communities of practice are really important for emotional support. As you said, there's going to be lots of ups and downs, but just knowing that there's people who have been in your shoes before, have experienced that, someone to just even talk to about some of those problems that you're experiencing, because that can be just really uplifting and help grow a business to a tremendous amount.
Yes, agree. I think as a business owner or small business owner, you need to network other people like you. So this sort of like gives you information, how well they're doing, for example, how well you are doing comparing to them, and then they can give you information. So I think networking with other business owners is there also is very important. Like I went to the bazaar today to speak to all the other entrepreneurs. We've met each other before, and we talk about our other friends, for example, how are they doing, these kind of things. I think this keeps you motivated somehow from the sense of community, because we also share the same struggle, similar struggle. Yeah.
Because the journey can feel very personal and isolated for a long period of time. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? So do you know the scene very well, or are the micro entrepreneurs talking to each other, or there's no formal group that you guys have?
No, there's no. But thanks to social media, Instagram, Facebook.
You do follow each other. and
Yeah,
stuff like
we
that,
can message each other, DM each other, follow each other, invite each other to like do collaborations. A lot easier these days. And then you kind of like know who are your partners around, who are your potential partners.
And then once in a while, RYSE comes knocking and asks you to help them out with something.
Yes.
Do you plan to do some trade association among yourselves? Basically, I mean, I'm not so sure. I mean, you.
Scary words you're
I mean,
using.
I mean, no, I mean,
no plans for that.
Build a society or association. I mean, formally, I mean, you can register with a society in that sense. So, I don't know. I mean, we're talking about, like, let's say, for instance, the palm oil traders or whatever. So they'll create a group so that they'll protect themselves. So, do you have anything similar to your group? Probably some ice creams.
Ice cream union.
Ice cream cartel.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I'm not part of any such group, and there's
It's
no
probably
plan
difficult for entrepreneurs as well because you're growing your own business and this takes time to coordinate and, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, so I'm going to have to call it
Okay,
here.
sorry.
I think we've gone a bit over time. So thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you to the panelists. I think we have a few gifts we want to give first before we close this segment, and I hand it over to Farhan.
All right, thank you so much, Daniel. Distinguished guests, to express our heartfelt
There's two
gratitude
heavy
to
ones,
our
right?
panelists for their
This is the
time,
two heavy ones?
expertise, and candid discussions. We would like to invite the RYSE Program Manager, Mr. Daniel Al-Bakri, to present our speakers with a token of appreciation.
Oh dear, I'm going to squash my iPad. You don't want one? You're going to get one.
Okay. I have like 5 of these already, but yeah, I'll take another one.
Distinguished guests, again, please give a big round of applause for our panelists. Distinguished guests, we are now at the end of the 2023 RYSE Research launch. What an incredible journey we've had today exploring the realms of youth entrepreneurship and employability. We've heard powerful insights and we've been inspired by the potential and ambition of our young entrepreneurs. But our journey doesn't have to end here. Just outside, we still have a vibrant bazaar filled with innovative products and ideas created by our talented Tauke's. We also have a lunch prepared for you outside there at the ASB lobby to fill your empty stomachs after a long day's hard work of listening in and participating with the important discussions. So, distinguished guests, we hope that you found the discussions, insights, and conversations as enlightening as we have here. The dedication and enthusiasm exhibited by everyone in this room today have been remarkable. Distinguished guests, please give a big round of applause for yourselves. On behalf of the organizers, thank you again for making the 2023 RYSE Research launch a success. We hope to see you again soon. Thank you and have a nice day.